Welcome back to the Inspire, Create, Manifest podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Joe Longo, and today we're diving deep into a conversation about alignment, freedom, and creating a life that you don't want to escape from. My guest is Dr. Nona Djavid, a chiropractor turned entrepreneur, author, and mindset mentor who helps high-achieving women and entrepreneurs step out of burnout and into prosperity. She blends neuroscience, energetics, and practical strategy through her 1 week month lifestyle framework, showing people how to embody abundance rather than chase it. Thank you so much for being here with me. So as we were chatting, a little bit before we hit record, you were a chiropractor and you decided to step away to pursue everything that you're doing now. I'm just curious, what led to that? What led to it? What gave you the courage to do it?
I wish I could say I woke up and one day everything was so rosy and I decided I was going to, move in a different direction. But I think the story of struggle is just as powerful. I was kind of the high achiever in the family. We immigrated here to the United States from Iran when I was 16 years old. I was always the A+ student. I would get upset if I got an A-. I moved here, learned the language, went to Berkeley, studied neurology there, got my doctorate, moved into a new town, started a business. I did got married, had children. I did all of those things, minus the children part in my early mid-20s. I built a 7-figure business before I was in my mid-20s. And so I checked off all these boxes, and a lot of the energy that I put towards, checking off these boxes had to do with wanting to prove myself or some level of showing my worth or wanting to seek and go after significance or self-worth. I didn't, of course, realize it at the time. But I do remember having this business, 13 employees, married, all the things. And here I was completely alone and completely just unfulfilled, unhappy. And I was a slave to my business. I couldn't walk away from it. I'd built it and grew it to a point where it was kind of working, it was making money, but I didn't have the freedom or the fulfillment to feel any differently about it than burnout. And in those moments, this was my practice. This was my private practice of chiropractic here in Southern California. And then in that moment of burnout, I made a decision that I was going to do things differently. If I wanted a different life, I really needed to just take on a completely different approach in that process. And that was kind of the beginning of, okay, because I can set another goal and I can go after it. I can be like, let's open up another location and I could go after it. But if I feel the way I feel on the inside, it's really honestly not worth it. Or that's what I understood at the time. And I remember thinking, okay, the first step is I'd like to experience more freedom. So I jotted down some things that were the things that were really juicy to me at the time that I wanted to experience. And I remember writing down, I want a part-time 7-figure business. I want to travel the world. I want to world school my child and my future children. I want to find love. I was married, but I want to find love either in this marriage or I need to do something different about it. I want to live bicontinentally. I want to learn a new language. I want to have a big impact. I want to write a book. So I wrote all of those things down. And from where I was sitting, Joe, all of those things were so crazy and so unreasonable. Like they just did not make sense. They were not a match for who I was at the time. But I remember it sparked something in me just to claim them and jot them down. And I decided that I was going to commit to those things instead of just the next box to check off. And that was really the beginning of everything. I ended up transforming my business and building a part-time 7-figure business. I opened up 3 other businesses, I should say. And here, at the time we were in 7 figures, semi-passive income, And this is a process, right? I don't want to share the story and make it sound like it's an overnight success. This was like over a decade ago. And
Hmm.
now I get to live that life. I world school my kids. I live between Southern California and Italy. I have the companies that give me the freedom that I want to experience, but it all really started because I had followed this borrowed dream and I was completely unfulfilled in it. And I decided to take a chance and commit to this unreasonable vision that I had for my life and commit to it over and over and over again. On bad days, wake up and commit to it. On good days, wake up and commit to it. So that became the beginning of really my journey and diving into, okay, if hustle and struggle wasn't the answer, then how can I actually get more ease and joy and spaciousness? And how can I bring more of those into my life?
Hmm. That's a beautiful story. And I love that you did, have the little reminder that it took a decade,
Hmm.
but that also isn't that long.
Right.
Right? When we look at the grand scheme of our life, and once we start taking that step, and the first step was you taking the time to sit down and write that unrealistic
Yeah,
life.
that's
And
right.
I'm curious if you can remember that moment, how it felt in your body writing those unrealistic things. Did it
Yeah.
feel natural, or did it feel like your body was like, you are not going to do this?
Definitely. Specifically, I was in a closet space. So I was literally walked into my walk-in closet. I shut the door, I shut the lights, I sat next to the wall, held onto my knees, and I was sobbing because I was completely in this burnout process. And then, once I got done crying, and I got everything out, then I decided I was gonna do something different. And I walked out of the closet, grabbed my journal, and I started to write things down. A lot of these things were dreams that I had when I was a child or before sort of got jaded by the challenges of life. And when I was writing those things down, no, definitely, it wasn't, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. It's going to be great. No, it was more like, who do you think that you are?
Hmm.
Think that you are? Do you think that you are worthy of this? You can't do this. You can't do this. Other people can. You can't do this. There was a lot of fear that came up. And as a matter of fact, now what I teach is when you set a vision that activates that part of your nervous system that really truly just wants to keep you safe, in this case, telling me that you can't do this, when you have that vision, that is the vision that's going to help you depart from the version of your identity that's not serving you.
Hmm.
So if you set a goal, say a SMART goal or a vision, right? Measurable, realistic, maybe a bit boring, all of those.
Yeah.
But when you set those goals, it's not really requiring you to step outside of your current identity. By definition, you already know how to do the SMART goal. You
Mhm.
just have to maybe a little bit of accountability, a little bit of discipline, and here you are. But it doesn't ask you to depart from your current identity. But when you set an unreasonable vision, and it's only unreasonable for your current identity, but when you set
Mhm.
that vision, then you are required to step outside of that identity, or you're required to express more parts, different parts of your identity, and maybe not express as much of what you would normally express. So it's a big evolution or a big quantum leap that can happen. I think it's essential for us as human beings who want to experience growth. It's essential to set a vision for life that is really big, and it does activate the nervous system to go, that's unsafe, because ultimately it's not unsafe. It's
Mhm.
haven't experienced it yet.
Right. So you said a couple of things in there on pretty much changing your identity, becoming anew, and then our nervous system and getting our nervous system to buy into it as
Mhm.
well. So if you can maybe share one way that we can start how do I want to say this? Owning the new identity.
Yeah. Okay. Can I share a study? Because this is really cool. And then
Yeah.
I'll make it practical.
Hmm.
Um, I shared with you before we hopped on the call, I'm doing a TEDx talk on the unreasonable life, living an unreasonable life. And so TEDx, they want all kinds of research and everything has to be this and that and the other. So
Hmm.
I dove really deep into, okay, what is the research around this? And I came across this really cool study where they had middle schoolers in low income areas. I mean, these kids have no desire to go to college. If they graduate high school, that would be a small percentage of that particular middle school. So they did the study in that environment. They split the group into two. One was the control group, which is a bunch of kids, middle schoolers who school as usual, nothing different. And then there's a second group, which becomes the group where they go. They didn't give them more tutoring. There was no more schooling, no more teaching, nothing like that. Twice a week, they introduced them to the concept of a college student. Like they showed them what a college student was like. This is what they do, and this is where they go to class. And I mean, just the idea. It wasn't even like you as a college student, it was more like very general, twice a week. I think maybe it was no more than 20 minutes a week. And what they found was so astonishing and so fascinating to me, blew my mind. The second group ended up having higher scores while they were in middle school and in high school. The second group ended up having more likeliness to turn in their homeworks, or more number of them turned in their homeworks. They were more likely to go to college. More of them, relative to the control group, ended up in college. I mean, just the fact that your brain was introduced to the future version of you had twice a week had that kind of an implication on middle schoolers. And when you look at the stats, I don't have them in front of me, but in terms of improvements, whether it was the scores or the fact that they turned in their homework or college, it was somewhere between 35 and 70% improvement relative to the control group. So when you say, well, what do we do? How do we leverage that, right? Anybody would like a 30% leverage or 30% more likely to live that next level life or experience more in life, more freedom, more love, more joy, is get in touch with your future self or the identity of the future self. And so, to make this practical, I teach a four-step framework of how you quantum leap your life. The first step in this is having an unreasonable vision, right? So, something you kind of hook onto. The second step in the process is actually defining the identity. So, just like those college students, is you got to sit down and be like, the version of me that allows that level of freedom or joy or abundance, who is that version? Really utilizing the left brain to sit down and defining the next version of yourself. And something that might pop up with somebody who might be listening to this is that kind of faking it, right? Like you're asking me to fake it in this process. And the reality is that's not faking. What we are faking, all of us in humanity, is actually our limitations. When we show up in our limitations and our blockages, like every single one of us is faking it right now. What is the most real thing is actually to express full potential for the desires that we have, or the full potential of our identity. And identity itself is fluid, right? And I mean this to say, like, you know, everyone listening to this, probably we've all had a day where we wake up and we're fully confident about our day. We've also all had a day where we're like 0 out of 10 confident. You wake up, you're just not confident. So, which one are you, right? Are
Mhm.
you confident? Are you not confident? Can you tune into confidence? So it's like choosing the next level version of yourself or identity. And then you obviously do that over and over and over again until it becomes part of your embodiment.
Hmm. Thank you for that. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking about the simplicity of it. And the
Mm,
simplicity of it creates the hardness of it because we automatically start to talk ourselves out of, well,
Mhm.
it can't be that easy. And we still have to go out there and do all of the work and do that. But as you were saying that, I was literally thinking like, okay, but how do we really do it?
Mm.
I'm a big fan of Neville Goddard and his book, The Feeling is the Secret. And it's
Yeah.
short and sweet and to the point, and it's like, be it, feel it, become it, and you will
Yeah.
be it. And I even struggled with that. But right now, at this moment, maybe it all just lined up, and I see my old football helmet sitting back there. And I think about that kid that played football that put that helmet on. When the
Mm.
helmet went on, I became that person. So it's like, can we trick ourselves into putting the hat on and now I am this, like having an actual physical thing that we do, that when I wear this shirt, I am this being. I am this identity now,
Mhm.
and flip that switch. And there's something with athletes that I've really been sitting with. And I think a lot of athletes have that when they step on to their court, their field, they are this new person. And
Mhm.
like, how can we take that with everyday life? Because we're seeing it. These people are doing it. It's like, I'm your average Joe, but when I put that helmet on, I was a different Joe.
Mhm.
So how can we, right, take that and implement it again in a simple way that we start believing it? Right.
Totally. There's a study, I'll have to look it up again. This is a while ago, but there was a study that talks about the importance and the impact of actually creating a persona and giving yourself a nickname for that particular persona and allowing yourself to anchor into that personality or that identity. And then when you show up as that version of yourself, like just like you say with the football helmet, it could be when you put your hair up in a ponytail. It could be just calling out a nickname or a superhero version of yourself or superpower version of yourself. If you can create that identity and then step into it, I mean, the steps are easy. I think the hardest part is the repetition, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Repetition of the new identity, because the old identity is such a massive deep, deep pattern that I have lived in. I mean, I grew up feeling like
Mhm.
struggle and hard work were part of life and part of proving yourself to be worthy. And now I have to sit in a space where freedom is a thing I have to get comfortable with, right? So if
Mhm.
this is such a big hook and it's so deep, I'm going to have to go through so much repetition to unhook from these patterns and move into the new patterns.
Mhm. And man, consistency. Because I feel that if we actually do the work, it's not going to take a long time. It's just that hard work of saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Mhm.
show up. And I think this kind of leads into, is it Coffee with Nona, little
Yeah.
series on Instagram, that I saw yesterday, and you really shared something that I have been sitting with and feeling for a long time. Affirmations are great. We usually don't believe them. Our vision boards are great, but it's usually like, right, there's that thing. And the way you were explaining it, with our nervous system and that idea of our past, it got, again, me thinking about my past and just the way I was raised and allowing things right to line up and be like, oh my goodness. And it's created the awareness, but then with the awareness, it's like, all right, well, then how do I let go of that money trauma? Right?
Yeah.
How do I get my nervous system to be open to abundance?
Yeah, totally. I just love that concept because it just, everyone talks about affirmations, vision board. I have one literally right here. So I have all the things and I teach people how to write out their unreasonable vision for their life. And I would say if you're in this space, you probably also maybe have heard that when you say the affirmation or look at your vision board or you read your life script, it doesn't necessarily mean it's getting anchored into your nervous system. So most people think, oh, okay, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But if you really, and this is a nuance, right? If you really understand the nervous system, those affirmations are not only not working, but they're actually harming your nervous system. You're creating resistance every time you say money flows to me and I'm a money magnet and things like that, or with regards to any other concept. And what I explained in the series online was, say when I was a child, or if you're listening to this, everybody has a money story. So if your money story is struggle, you watched your parents, or maybe even generations before there was poverty, or you watched your parents have anxiety or stress around money, or maybe you had a lot of money and there was guilt and shame around it. Either way, those emotions in your nervous system, they get tagged with money. So money and stress, as an example, they go together because
Hmm.
experienced before you were 7 years old. So then you get into your 20s and 30s and 40s, and you're like, I learned from Joe and Nona that I should do my affirmations. So we start to say, money flows to me, or again, relate this to anything you might be working on. But what we're not recognizing is now every time I say money, or every time I interact with money, anytime I purchase my coffee, or I invest in something, or I buy lunch for my friends, anytime money is around, because my nervous system has tagged it with stress, I'm actually experiencing stress. And we don't necessarily recognize this. So this is the same thing as when you smell the cookies from when your grandma made it. Now you smell it immediately, you remember the memories. It's the same thing as listening to a song when you were in your 20s, and now it brings up all of the different memories. Same exact concept in neurology. Now, how do we get around that, right? One way is to take a look at it, the golden ticket here. The one way is to take a look at those patterns and go, okay, well, what happened? What did I hear? Just break it down, sit down with it. I think there's a lot of therapy that does this, and some life coaching as well. But I think more just purely from a neurological perspective, it actually makes more sense to give your body and your nervous system a different experience. And the way that you can bypass this it's not really a bypass, it's rewiring of those nerves that have wired together in your past. And you're trying to put more, a new set of neurons on top of it so that you can rewire. You're not really unhooking them, but you're setting up new patterns, if you would, is to give your brain and your nervous system a new experience. So one way to do this is obviously create, like you looking at your vision board, or reading the affirmation, or going through your life script alone. It doesn't do anything, but there's two other layers that you go through. The second layer is emotion, which you discussed. So the first layer is I read it. All right, that's definitely a trigger to the nervous system if I have a negative experience in the past. The second layer is in the heart, which is, okay, feel, like Neville Goddard says, you have to feel as if the wish is fulfilled, as if this process is already done. That's the second layer. The third layer in this process is actually, do I feel that in my body? Do I feel that in my body? So that's really truth of embodiment. With that, going through those three layers, you continuously say the things and your body goes stress, anxiety, that's not going to happen, guilt, shame, whatever you were neurotagged in your childhood, you're going to continue to experience it anytime you energetically interact with that thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And that, like, I've lived it, felt it, been there. And it's really interesting because, as you said, like, oh, the thing that you see, right, at 7, an experience, at that point, and now being here, 40, 50, in the space of having that awareness and saying, oh, that was it. I heard this line. I heard we're always just getting by, for example. Now I'm here and I'm living, I'm always just getting by. So how do I create that new connection, the new pathway? And
Mhm.
in a way, I feel it comes back to the identity,
Totally.
right? Like, I have to have this new identity of I don't just get by. I'm the new version. And
Mhm.
all of that, it's like these, I want to say, how do we like, and I think the thing that's getting me is I've been teaching Kundalini yoga for 20 years and really working with energy in that space and connecting with all of it. But then when it's like, I'm going to reprogram it to
Mhm.
work for me, right? It's like I sit here and we're like, but how in the world do we actually do it?
Yeah. So I think, okay, the unreasonable vision, absolute must. Like you have to have something that you are going after, whether it's a better relationship with money, better relationship with in your intimate relation. There's got to be something. And I would assume 99.9% of your audience is looking for growth. That's why they're listening here. So
Hmm.
if you have that, then even if you don't go through the rest of the steps to, embody and become it, let's say you don't even have time for this identity conversation, you're just a beginner, you're just getting started. If you have an unreasonable vision, if you can give it some juice, if you can create scenery in that vision that describes the life that you have. So, what does it smell like with this new house that I walk into? What are the wood floor? What does it feel like when I put my hand on the countertops? Like maybe they're marble and a little bit cold. And what's the smell that's coming through and who's saying what? And so it's almost like overwhelming, probably not the right word, but like really creating that overwhelm for your nervous system to experience something that it hasn't experienced yet in your mind's eye. That is the thing that's going to make that next level life easy and safe for the nervous system, because ultimately, from a neurological perspective, we only experience what we have experienced in the past. This is why people experience, toxic relationships, they get into another one. We just getting by, this is what you're going to experience. One, it looks different, but it's really pretty much the same pattern as we experience. Unless you come to a cross point and you make a decision to experience something different. Now, you might not all of a sudden have multiple seven figures in your bank account, but you could, from a mental perspective, get your brain and your nervous system to feel what it feels like to have multiple seven figures or a six pack or, more impact, whatever you want to do. And the idea is to give that thing to your nervous system over and over and over again, so that your nervous system goes, oh, that is safe. I can go there now. And there's tons of studies around this, like kind of overused to say, when you are doing an activity versus when you think about doing that activity, the same parts of your brain are going to light up. So if that is the truth of the nervous system, then if I keep thinking that I live in the wish fulfilled, then my nervous system goes, oh, we've been there. Oh, we've been there, we've been there, we've been there, we've been there. And ultimately it becomes safe. So I'm not going to self sabotage myself back to struggle or back to lack or back to we're just getting by, because this becomes much bigger than the old patterns.
That sounds so beautifully simple as well. And as you were saying that, I literally am feeling that if you can have that vision, right, that unrealistic life,
Mhm.
and create a practice that you will put yourself right in the space to feel the thing, it's going to happen. But you have to actually want it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a piece that a lot of people might not realize. We say we want this thing, but we might not really want it. So we don't do the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So many layers in
So
it of right being like, this is what I actually want. This is how I'm worthy of having it. And
yeah,
now I'm going to start doing the work of having it. So you gotta want it, but then want it enough to do the simple practice
yes.
over again until we actually start feeling it.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I said at the beginning of my journey, it was more like, I'm just going to commit to it. I'm going to keep saying yes to the vision. And I think you're right. Most people will say, there's so many layers. Like somebody might say, I don't know what I want.
Mhm.
Heard that a lot, which
All
is
the time.
which is usually code for I know exactly what I want, but I'm afraid to claim it because if I claim it, I'm gonna have to let go of this relationship. I'm gonna have to work harder. I'm gonna have to work less. I'm gonna have to change things, so we don't want to face it. So it's easier to go, I don't know what I want. The another layer might be that somebody says, oh, I know what I want, but what they want is a borrowed dream. They're looking outside of themselves to go, oh, well, Joe is driving this car and has this kind of house and has a six pack, and that's what I want. So that would be a borrowed dream. So discerning what is yours and what you have picked up along the way is also really important. And then some people are like, I know what I want, and I'm afraid to claim it. And then there's those who are like, I know exactly what I want. Tell me what to do to get there.
Hmm.
I think no matter where you are on this spectrum, if you just start with one thing, like what's the next thing you'd like to experience? I want to be 3 pounds lighter. I want to be have Fridays off, whatever that might look like. And then just practice, like a muscle to practice to go, what does the version of me who is 3 pounds lighter, 10 pounds lighter, doesn't work on Fridays, like what is she doing on Fridays?
Hmm.
What is she wearing 10 pounds lighter? So experience playing in that space, I think is really important. Sometimes we get super serious about all of this. And it's like, it could just be a bit more playful and fun.
Yes, and I love that you said that word play and playful because we pick things up quicker when we're playing. We believe things more when we're playing. So it's like that play, adding the play into it. Be the millionaire tomorrow if you want to be the millionaire, right? Millionaire Wednesdays. And I don't know why that popped into my head, right? But every Wednesday you wake up, you're the millionaire. What would that millionaire do? And but play it out, use your imagination. Um, so one of the things that of the many things that you have is the 1 week month lifestyle. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this was a vision that came to me maybe about 4 years ago. And as I got that vision, it was like, okay, you're going to work 1 week a month and you're going to take 3 weeks off, right? So you're going to cut. At that time, I was not full time, but I was working probably part time, but it's definitely not near only working 1 week and taking 3 weeks off. Far from where I was.
Mhm.
Completely unreasonable. But I had this vision, and the first thing that I felt was complete panic because I was like, what am I going to do for 3 weeks off? Right. I could barely sit down to do like an hour meditation. Like I just get jittery, like, and I got to do the things and I got to run to the things. But I also knew that that was my lesson and that was my journey. That was my soul's journey. And then, of course, then getting to share what I learned in the process. And having a 1 week a month lifestyle for me became more about the embodiment of what it meant to be comfortable in a space of ease, in a space of freedom, like that level of freedom where I don't have to do anything for 3 weeks at a time. I can take my kids and homeschool them or world school them. I can travel. I can, tune into all these different ways that I want to give back. And I just was, it was a journey of getting comfortable in that space, getting my nervous system to feel comfortable in that space. And people ask me, like, was it hard from a business perspective? Because I have a multiple 7-figure business, different companies I run. So, and my answer truly is that it was the easiest part was to scale the company and put in systems in place and employees and delegate and all of those different pieces so that I can only live 1 week, only work 1 week and then have the rest of it for free. The more challenging part about this was to get my nervous system to not self sabotage it back to the old patterns of having to work on the times that I did have off, which I think we're all familiar with it. So now I have a mastermind for business owners and entrepreneurs, and not everybody wants the 1 week a month lifestyle. I realize that's pretty you know, I don't know, out of this world or kind of crazy. But people want to have more freedom. They want to take a Friday off. They want to go home to be with their children. They want to travel more. They want to take a vacation every quarter. Whatever your version of it is you kind of have to become the version of you that is comfortable and feels safe with freedom and ease and all of those things in abundance, right? Before you
Hmm.
can actually have the lifestyle. And so inside of the mastermind, just a little funny side note, it's filled up with all these entrepreneurs and business owners, right? And when they first we onboard them, we tell them that there are three non-negotiables inside of the mastermind. So if you're part of this mastermind, one non-negotiable is that you have to eliminate something every week. So a task, a project, something you don't wear in your closet, you have to eliminate something. They're like, all right, I can do that. I can do that. And then the second non-negotiable in there is that you have to have an hour per week where you have no phone, no computer, no kids, no spouses, and you just sit there. And we call the CEO hour. You sit there and you envision what the next level business or life would look like for you and your family as you lead this life. And I kid you not, these entrepreneurs, high achievers, clearly, they try to bargain with me and they go, can I do 15 minutes here, 15 minutes? Can we split it? Like, are you sure it's an hour? What if it's not an hour? And I'm like, it's like no, it's actually, let's get you comfortable in dreaming, which is what we are designed to do. Or imagination is what we're trying to do. And so, to get people to feel really safe in that space has become really, really powerful. And these business owners are just week after week, we run challenges inside of the group. And week after week, they are like, I'm working less, making more money, just took a vacation I haven't taken for 10 years, whatever. But it's not from doing more things. It's about to kind of full circle is about becoming more of the version of themselves that can have an expanded container for joy, abundance, money, love, freedom, all of those things.
Hmm. Yeah, that I just it that made me feel so good. Um, just because the community that I run, we've been doing this past 2 weeks was literally like that, like cut something out, right? Let go of something and get bored,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like get you can't do anything, just sit down, give yourself some time to just get bored and see what happens, right? See what comes up. So like that, just makes me feel good that like there's a bunch of us out here on this plane that are picking up on like we need to just stop for an hour. And it's also very interesting the negotiating. Well, can I do it like this and then a little like this? Like, but that's not the just go sit in the chair. Just
Right.
sit in the chair. And as I've been doing it the past 2 weeks, the things that have been flowing into
Mhm.
my head, right? Even just sitting on the couch playing my guitar, right? Just playing my guitar with nothing else on, or just sitting on my couch with a book in that stillness. Even though there's still something happening, it's a different stillness than I think most, and for me, I was used to, right? Because there's always something going. So if I just turn it, right? What if I go for a walk and I don't listen to anything?
Oof. That's like that triggered something inside of me.
And that, same for me because I have a lovely dog. She's getting a little older, so we don't walk as much. So I find myself walking her and then going for another walk, right? And a couple of weeks ago, my partner Tina said, she was like, what if you don't listen to anything? Because I'm always like, what should I listen to? What podcast should like I should listen to something? And in that not listening on the walk created so much beautiful space to just hear and feel. And can I walk like this version of me?
Yeah.
Right? This new identity. And I found so much power in that, in going for the walk as the best-selling author, as the speaker. And
Mhm.
how would he walk down the street? How would he feel? And
Yeah.
just exploring those things creates for me like an excitement of like, yeah, I'm him already.
Mhm.
And again, the simple practice of just going for a walk.
Yeah. I know. I love that. And the power of elimination and the power of doing less. I mean, it's funny because apparently, like you said, this is the time that we're doing this as a consciousness, but I call it the quantum cleanse, and we just did that, which is like eliminating the things and delegating and all of these things. But I think you took it to the next level to be bored. Because as soon as you said that, I was like, okay, I need to practice being bored. I can practice and like spaciousness, and in that spaciousness, like have an intention or a desire or a vision. But what if I was just bored and I just sat there? Thank you
Mm.
for that. So,
Oh, you're welcome. It was a
level.
it was a beautiful flashback to the 80s of sitting in my house and being like, I'm bored. And it just hit. I'm like, wow, when was the last time you were bored? Like literally just in that space. And what if we explore it and see what comes through in it? And, the more we can get still and go within, we're going to find everything that we need. But we
100%.
have to get still enough to go within. And I often point back to the books over there. It's like every book over there says the same thing, right? Go within, be
Mhm.
quiet and go within. Every great teaching tells us this. And again, it's that the simplicity, like it can't be that easy. You mean if I just don't pay attention to out there, but I pay attention to in here,
Wow.
I can connect to that unreasonable life. And honestly, I think I said this last night in a yoga class that I was teaching that, we have these desires. We were born with these desires. We're supposed to follow through with the desires, but we often say, "Oh, that's unreasonable." But it's like it's why we're here.
That
We're
is exactly why we're here.
we're here to be unreasonable. And I don't think it is too unreasonable to have that lofty goal, that lofty vision. It's
Wow.
what
I
is.
I think what it is it feels unreasonable for who you are right now.
Mhm,
And as you commit to it, it becomes reason. Like right now, talk to me about living by continentally world schooling the kids. It's like, yeah, we just do it. This is just how it's normalized.
mhm,
Versus back in the day, it was like, does that even exist? Is that even a possibility? It's so out there. So I think it exists for
mhm,
everybody, and that's the process of becoming, right? If we can intentionally step into it, then we become the version of ourselves that we're really designed to be in this life.
mhm. I recently just saw, a video clip of Snoop Dogg has a, like, pee-wee football program that he does, and so many kids that have gone through that program are in the NFL. And there was a kid that they did an interview with like 10 years ago. Just, kind of after practice, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And he was like, well, probably in 10 years, I'll be in my like first or second year in the NFL. And it's like 10 years, and he is in his first and second year in the NFL. But it was like he had that right from this little, he had the vision. It was just like, yeah, that's where I'm going to be, and
Mhm.
allowed it to happen. And I look at stories like that. I'm like, well, if he did it, you can do it. Anybody can do it. But we have to actually sound silly, do it. Right? We have to do the more than just the vision board, more than just the affirmations. It's really believe it, but to also get out there, right? Like your businesses didn't just happen because you believed them into being. You had to show up every day.
Take some unreasonable actions.
Right. Right. No, this was awesome. Such a fun conversation. I will link all of your links in the show notes. But do you know when the TEDx is happening? And is there anything that anyone can people sign up to be in your mastermind?
Yes, absolutely. TEDx will be in January and it will be in Italy. So that's
Awesome, TEDx.
but in terms of the mastermind, yeah, I think if anybody's interested in my work or just want to connect, I love a personal connect, is they can just connect with me on Instagram and let me know what resonated in this conversation, and we can just chat and see if there's anything that I can do to support them and help them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time for this conversation. It has been very enlightening for me. I'm sure it'll be enlightening for our listeners as well. And for all of you out there listening, go give Nona a follow. Her links will be in the show notes, and check out some of the coffee talk. It's been very entertaining. I've been enjoying it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.